Welcome along to today's video. Today I'm taking out Honda's answer to the adventure touring world. This is the Africa Twin 1100. Before we get into it, let's roll the intro. Kicking us off, let's talk about the engine inside this bike. Honda are using the 1100 twin cylinder across multiple different platforms, from the Africa Twin, the NT 1100 and the CMX 1100. That's right, 3 different platforms: an adventure tourer, a touring bike and a cruiser. Looking at the stats behind the Africa Twin 1100's engine, brake horsepower we are pushing out 100.6 and then 105 newton meters of torque. In the grand scheme of things, comparing it to other adventure tourer style bikes, whether it be the Ducati Multistrada, the BMW GS 1250, this is pretty low in those number games. But when you're riding it, UK roads, you're not going, oh, I wish I had a little bit more, I wish it was a little bit faster. Personally, I feel that having lower stats like that on an adventure style bike, it's kind of the best area. So on the road, you don't need more. You're not there wanting more from it, but then when you take it off-road, the bike doesn't need to work as hard to dole down that extreme amount of power or the brake horsepower or the torque that it's got. Being a twin cylinder, I do find some vibrations through the handlebars and some through the pegs. It's kind of expected when you've got a larger CC twin cylinder bike, but definitely nothing that you can't handle, especially if you are going to go touring. Whack it in 6th gear and then those vibrations definitely do lessen, unless you're in the wrong gear going around the corner. I do need to take it a little bit careful today. It has been raining today, the ground is starting to dry up, but this is a brand new bike. When I mean brand new, when I picked it up it had 2 miles on the clock. So new tyres, new brakes, everything's still bedding in. So just a nice gentle ride. And also because the weather isn't great. And that to me is kind of when these adventure style bikes are perfect. Days like this I wouldn't be bringing out my sports bike, but on a bike like this or the GSA that I've got, it doesn't bother you, it doesn't phase you. Let's look at the lineup of this bike then. There are going to be 2 main model lines. You're going to have your standard Africa Twin, and then from there you're going to have your Africa Twin Adventure Sport. This here is an Africa Twin Adventure Sport. Further options from there are going to be whether you want the DCT, so the dual clutch transmission, i.e. no clutch, pretty much an automatic bike, and they do also offer electronic suspension, or you can have your traditional suspension where you can then go and set it up or adjust it yourself. I believe there's a couple of different colour options. We've got this, which is obviously the red, white and blue. They're also doing a kind of like a grey, blacky style, and I believe for the standard Africa Twin, I'm not sure about the Adventure Sport, I think they're also going to do like a red and black model. So pricing is going to vary, obviously depending whether you want the standard, the Adventure Sports, the DCT, the electronic suspension. But for this standard Africa Twin Adventure Sports, it's going to set you back around £14,750. Or if you went for the Adventure Sports with the electronic suspension and the DCT, that's going to set you back around 17.5. Now you may think not too bad, 17.5. I mean it's still quite a lot of money, but that's obviously with no luggage and none of the extras. I went onto the configurator this morning and the luggage, jeez, I thought BMW luggage were expensive. The luggage for this, and then it's like a pack, a couple of like the guards and the fog lights, but it's going to set you back £3,300. That's for the aluminium ones. There are some plastic ones that are a little bit cheaper, but still, if you want the luggage for this, you're going to end up setting yourself back up to almost 20 grand. Obviously, if you got this one and then added on the luggage, you'll be looking at around 17,500. That's what I always try and do, look at the base price, but then always think, what am I going to add? Do I want quick shifter, because that's an extra? Just because the base price is 14 odd grand doesn't mean that's what it's going to end up at after you've added a few little goodies. One thing that BMW do well is they have got a vast parts catalogue. So there is a lot of little extras that you can end up chucking on this. One of those extras that you might change is seats. So this seat height is 850 to 870. So it's going to have internally some small adjustments available. That's on your standard seat. Honda also provide a short seat and a tall seat. Both of them are going to add or take away 25mm. So at the lowest point, this seat can go down to 825mm or up 895mm. I think far too long this style of bike has just been dominated by the older average height to taller height male riders. Like, there's some shorter guys out there. More importantly, a lot of women aren't tall. So if you want to encourage women to ride or start getting out on those ventures, especially if it's your partner, finding a bike for them that fits them and that's comfortable for them, and they're not worried about dropping it every time they come to a traffic light, is massively important. So we would love to give this bike a go, but unfortunately on the standard seat 850 it is starting to push the upper limit of the height that she's comfortable with, and without Honda having a smaller seat available to chuck on the bike, she's not going to be able to go out and test ride this. So maybe that's the thing that Honda should look at doing, is all bikes like this that have the lower seat option should come with it. The other thing that's going to worry you not only about is your feet going to slip or they're going to touch the floor when you come to a traffic light, but it's also the weight of this bike. She's not a light puppy, 238 kilos. When you're riding, actually it handles nicely, it flicks, you can't really feel the weight. Stationary, when you're trying to move it around, say the garage, you can feel that weight. You then start adding on some panniers and top box, and then another 10 kilos of kit and luggage into those, the weight can soon start to pick up. Adding to the weight of any motorcycle is going to be the fuel tank. This also can be adjusted depending on whether you buy the Africa Twin or the Africa Twin Adventure Sports. By that I mean the standard Africa Twin fuel tank is just over 18 litres, and this one here is 24.8. So if you're a smaller rider, actually buying the standard Africa Twin might help, because then it's going to be 6 kilos lighter straight away. With this oversized tank, Honda claim up to 500 kilometers. For everyone else out there like myself, I don't do kilometers. You're looking at 310 miles to a tank. That's all dependent how you ride, where you ride, if you got any luggage, all that stuff in between. Let's move on to the electronics of this bike. We've got your standard ABS, but that can be adjusted because this does have an off-road capability, off-road rider mode. We've got traction control with something like 7 different levels. Pretty impressive. And controlling all these different parameters is actually the rider modes. And there's 6 different rider modes. So using the dial on the left hand side, the up and down arrow. So we're on user 1, then we got off-road, gravel, urban, tour, user 2, and then back to user 1. And as you saw, the actual TFT screen itself changed slightly. So you can go into user 1 and user 2 and you can adjust the parameters, and I think you can also adjust the type of screen that's on show. As you can see, we do have 2 screens. We've got a 6.5 inch TFT screen, and a good thing with this one as well is it does have Android Auto and then Apple CarPlay. I believe to set them up, similar to the cars, you need to have a USB cable, plug it into the bike, plug it into your phone, and that will then connect it for the first time, and then from there it will do it via the Bluetooth. One thing I really do like with the dual screen is the bottom one is obviously your old school LCD, but when you're stood up you can still see your speed and your gear. This hood does cover your TFT screen, but I can see I'm doing 32 miles an hour when stood up in a more off-roady style position. We do have a couple of different USB chargers. On the right hand side is your standard USB like waterproof housing, and on the left hand side down there is going to be your standard 12 volt cigarette lighter style connector point. I'm not going to go through the handlebars because this side is massive and pretty much doesn't do anything whilst you're riding, so not too much to worry about there. The only gripe I had from last year's Africa Twin is that the cruise control button is on the right hand side. I don't like it. Even with my hand all the way up to the inner side, my thumb still only just about makes that button. So if I want to use it, I have to come off the throttle to push the button to activate it, to then set it. You've got umpteen buttons on the left hand side here, just whack it there and I'll do it with my left hand, and I don't have to take my hand off the throttle. Heated grips come as standard on this bike, which is nice to see. On the right hand side there is a little FM button up by your index finger. You're going to push that, it will then bring it up, and on your left hand side you can then use the button to change the setting. As you can tell there, 5 different heat settings. Always nice to see on a venture style bike when they come as standard. The cruise control also comes as standard, nice to see. One thing that I wish was standard is the quick shifter. They do have one, but it's not, it doesn't come from the factory. When you buy the bike it is an added extra. I think it comes in at around £275. Must be the way I'm sitting, but I am finding my bum's actually hitting the edge of the passenger seat, so I have to kind of like move my bum forward a little bit. Let's pull over and have a quick walk around, do a little sound test, talk about some extra bits on the bike. So here we are then, pulled over, showing a couple of features I haven't talked about yet. So one of the first being the daytime running lights on this bike. They look pretty cool. Just below it, they're going to be your cornering lights. So that's going to be done by your lean angle and your speed as well. I think we can all agree that the bike looks really nice in the red, white and blue. So this bike, as you can tell, it does come with a rear rack, and what is nice to see is that the pannier mounting system is integrated into the bodywork of the bike. I like to see it when manufacturers take their time and designing an adventure bike, touring, whatever, where the luggage is integrated rather than needing an extra set of brackets just to put the panniers on. I mentioned that Honda do have a good parts catalogue, and that is including this lovely SC Project exhaust. You can get it in this colour or you can get it in black. We'll do a quick sound test just so you can hear it, and tell me what you guys think of it. Off the bike, I think it sounds pretty good. On the bike, you can't hear too much of it. It's not the loudest exhaust out there, but it's nice to see that it is available from Honda themselves. My lunch break's over, time to get back on the road. So remembering seat height 850, I'm 6'1". When on this bike, not quite flat foot on either side. One thing you do notice though is the tank kind of seat. It is skiddy, but then I do feel my hips kind of being pushed out a little bit. the good thing with this over the BMW GSA. Actually, the BMW's got the boxer engine, and I always hit my shins when at stationary or coming to traffic lights. I'll learn at some point. Where this bike does have its off-road capability, slow speed handling, and also the turning circle on this thing is awesome. It's exactly what you need when you're in the off-road situation. Anyone else get that feeling after lunch where it's not comfortable riding because you've just had too much to eat? Oh, and all you want to do is go find a sofa and lay down on it. It's okay, we'll push on. For 2023, Honda have actually made the screen smaller but kept the same level of protection, wind protection from 22. Unfortunately, they still haven't fixed the adjusters for the screen. To adjust it at the minute, both hands needed to push those in either side like that, and then you move it up and down. I don't know why they've done it where you need two hands to adjust the screen. Really annoys me. Like my the GSA, it's one-handed, but it's on the right hand side, so still I've got to come off the throttle or reach over on the left hand, and that annoys me. And it's still one-handed operation. This two-handed, and it annoys me even more. Why can't they make it a one-handed operation on the left hand side, or just like the BMW K1600 GT? That thing's got a motor, so it's actually an electric windscreen. I don't know about you guys, but I am ready for the summer. I'm fed up with this rain now. Come on, it's March. It was snowing a couple of weeks ago, for God's sake. Give me the sun. Leave a comment in the box below. Where would you take this bike? What type of riding? What adventures would you go on? Would you go over to Europe? Would you stay in the UK? Would you do the TET? So the Trans-European Trail, I believe? Something I'd like to do a little bit of. Even though this bike was brand new, started on 2 miles, we're on 39 at the minute. Brakes have bedded in really quickly. I really like these brakes, got no issues with them, which is always nice to see, because it's an easy area for manufacturers to skimp out on and save a little bit of money. Obviously today's test ride has only been on road. I would love to take this bike out, down some green lanes, do a bit off-road, but unfortunately due to insurance I can't do it. But if I was to take this off-road, I've got no dramas of thinking how it would handle. Quick shifter going down is super smooth as well. Up, as long as you've got it in a good part of the rev range and you are accelerating, it does blip in, no dramas. Another thing I am finding with this windscreen is when it's in its fully up position, which it is now, there's still a little bit of buffeting right at the top of my head. But the worst part for me is where the top part of the windscreen is. When you get into the twisties and your head's kind of moving around, it's kind of in your line point where you're looking, and then it gives you that kind of double road vision. So me personally, if I knew I was going to get into a set of twisties, I'd have to lower it down into the shortest position. You are also going to get extra buffeting then, because it's going to bring it down from the top of your head down to about the chin area for me. But the problem is, when you're trying to record, slide this down, all you're getting is wind noise onto the helmet. Honda do sell some extra kind of wind deflectors that kind of go in the front part of the fairing, and then there's another bit that goes down by your knees, just to kind of push that air out a little bit more, and they give you kind of a more tranquil bubble of air around you as you're riding along. Like anything though, all comes at an extra cost. Well, there we go, ladies and gents. I don't think there's a whole lot more I can say about this bike other than find yourself the nearest Honda dealership and book a test ride. These bikes are really good, very versatile, and if you go for the standard Africa Twin, they're about 13.5 grand new. You don't always need electronic suspension. If you get your suspension set up properly by a professional, you'll be laughing. Don't need the DCT personally. And then from there, fuel tank is up to you. And then half of the extra goodies you can add on from Honda's catalogue anyway. But it's like saying I should have got the GS over the GSA. I still went with the GSA. If you have enjoyed this video, please make sure you like the video. More importantly, subscribe to the channel. If you do want to support myself and Zoe on our journey, then you can either buy us a coffee, look in the description box below, there'll be a link for that, or you can join us over on Patreon, so you can get all the behind the scenes content, extra content, and all the other goodies. And until the next one, ride safe.